Wow. Would you look at that? That's how you know it was a good weekend. I think everyone knows it was a great weekend, actually. This was by far the best UFC card of the year. 314 not only set records for some fighters, but it set standards for what it takes to be a UFC fighter now. And I think it sets kind of mentality. It sets development, where you start versus where you end. And I think we saw that in a lot of fights. So we're going to go more into depth about that. But I wouldn't say I'm starting from the most interesting fight that happened recently, but we're going to talk about Chase Hooper defeating Jim Miller by unanimous decision. Chase Hooper is such a promising young fighter. He's only 25. He has a kid, so a little too young to start. But Chase Hooper just dominant ground control. I think Jim Miller had a lot of impressive fighting with his grappling, but mostly his escapes from the situations that he was being put in. He lost by unanimous decision, so it kind of goes to show that, you could try as hard as you want, but that doesn't... Like, if all you're doing is escaping, like, the judges aren't... Like, defense is a big part, but it's not enough to win you rounds. First round was definitely the closest round that they had. A lot of damage. I think there was a lot that had the most striking out of any round in Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper, and I think that is more of the fun round. Chase Hooper is just also such a funny guy. I think him getting a win over such a legend is great because he's developing, and also in his post, he was talking about how he thinks it's time for him to start fighting the other young up-and-comers and people that aren't old. And, just because you're old, that doesn't mean you're bad. I think today in that card, we saw that age, although it is a huge factor in fighting, it could be overcame by hard work. Great fight. I think everyone knows Chase Hooper's up and coming. Everyone knows that. And he said he gooned too much. And his forearms were sore from gooning so much. But it doesn't matter. See, we had to spell out the pronunciation on this one because it's so hard to say both of their names. Or we just had to write it out. We didn't do pronunciation. Virna Jandiroba defeats Yan Jai Onan by unanimous decision. Virna did look dominant the entire time. I think she kind of has the upper hand because she's able to look in two directions at once, kind of like a chameleon. But she just completely overwhelmed her in striking, grappling, everything. There was really no time that she wasn't in a comfortable place. And this is someone who Jan just fought Zhang Weili. Zhang Weili didn't just fight Jan. I think actually Jan had one more fight in between. We forgot what that is. But I think that Virna is going to be a problem for Zhang Weili. I think Zhang Weili is probably the best women's strawweight that's active right now. But I don't think that she has any easy fights really in her division. Every fight she has, she's kind of tested. And there's a lot of time, like Jan is pretty dominant, but I think that Virna rising in the ranks just is a good sign because you need challenge. And that's what Zhang Weili gets. Dan Ige fought Sean Woodson. Beat him by TKO up against the fence. I do think when I was watching it, I did say that was definitely early. It was early. But Dan Ige was winning. He cooked my parlay. I had him getting significant strikes over, I think it was 53.5. He made it to 47. So I think it was Goddard who stopped it. Check. But whoever stopped it early, I didn't even have him winning. I just had him getting significant strikes. He could have done that. But it was great. It was the good striking both. Andrew Glenn's. Fuck Andrew Glenn. Everyone believe that. I think everyone was expecting like a good fight because Dan Ige is one of those guys that bites down on his mouth guard and gets inside. I think that's an extremely effective move against Sean Woodson, considering he's so tall but so light at the same time. He's 6'3", but I think their reach difference wasn't that massive. Oh gosh, the rematch. I'd say. What other fights in the featherweight division are there right now that we could confidently say, yeah, like that's the fight to make? Could we see Dan Ige fighting Diego Lopez again? Probably not anytime soon, but a win after this, I think it's really possible just because of how well he performed against Diego Lopez last time. I think maybe we could see him fighting Brian Ortega. Anyways, Dan Ige is a beast. I think everyone loves Dan Ige, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him rising the ranks and kind of getting a lot of good fights that give him the opportunity to move up in the ranks. I think it's just completely up to him whether he wins and if he continues to perform at the top level that he can to move up the ranks, because Dan Ige is a fun fighter. So we'll see what happens with him. Dominic Reyes. So when you talk about someone who has a comeback of a century, going on a 4 losing streak, sliding down, sliding, stopping, with getting these massive wins over Anthony Smith, Krylov, and also he's the only guy to beat John Jones. Hate to say it, guys. But it was just such a fun fight. He looked so comfortable in the octagon. He looked like he could have... He did not look like he was in danger at any point in that fight. He was comfortable, and he even said, I'm not back, I'm better. He's here to show that he wants to rise the ranks again. And I can't think of anyone who doesn't like Dominic Reyes, except probably John Jones. I think the way he got to fight, he looked like he was a featherweight fighting. Even the way that he was taking the punch and knocking the guy out and landing such a clean hit on him like the Conor McGregor did against Jose Aldo. It was just incredible, and I'm so happy to see him back in the win column, and especially by such grand ways. I think he's on a 3 KO streak. I think he KO'd Jacoby too, or at least TKO'd. Anthony Smith he KO'd, and now Krylov he KO'd. And I don't even think he was a favorite for this fight. I don't think it was a significant underdog, but I think he was the underdog. I think because Alex Pereira has fought pretty much all the top guys in that division, it's going to be the same thing where they have to cycle through the top guys with Ankalaev, and I think that there is a possibility of Khalil Rountree getting a fight with Dominic Reyes. I just don't want to see it yet. I want to see him get one more good fight in before he's really before we're able to say, oh, Dominic Reyes is prepared to take on championship fights, because you don't go on a 4-fight slip because of just lacking skill. I think it truly was his mentality, and I think that if he says he's back, he's willing to work to get back there. So, Gene Silva, we got in trouble for saying John. Gene Silva defeats Bryce Mitchell by submission. I think it was in the 3rd round. Yeah, it was in the 3rd round. Gene Silva was being incredibly respectful. I think the build-up to the fight, he was messing around and stuff, but he was being incredibly respectful during the fight. He was doing a lot of fan service stuff where he was trying to have everyone hype him up, but it was nothing really that was look at how much of a dumbass this guy is. And he was handing Bryce Mitchell's ass to him. And I think that he probably made people a lot of money that night by getting that submission, because, boy, did he get it. I think no one thought that he was going to get it. I think everyone thought it was going to be a knockout. And all male fighting nerds are undefeated. The Fighting Nerds team is, everyone knows that's an incredible team, and I think any card that they're on, just based on the gym alone, you could tell it's going to be a fun fight. People are calling it the People's Championship fight. So, Gene Silva's so fun. Bryce Mitchell kind of deserved to get his ass handed to him. He's kind of been a jag-off recently, and I'm just happy that we're getting people rising up the ranks, especially fun, because the Fighting Nerds has such a technical, fun way of fighting, to where they have the professor is so skilled at Muay Thai, kickboxing, and grappling too. I mean, look at he got the submission win over a black belt. They're so fun and they're so practical and so refined in their form. So I'm just happy to see him here. And he did seem insane when he was running around the cage and he was barking and screaming. That was weird, but it was funny. He's a funny guy. Yair Rodriguez defeats Patricio Pitbull by unanimous decision. I think people weren't expecting a lot out of Yair Rodriguez because Pitbull was coming, but I think people do give Bellator fighters a little too much leeway. What is the transition rate from an outside promotion like Bellator or Ryzen coming to the UFC? What is like the win rate? Michael Chandler won his first fight against Dan Hooker, massive. Kyle Sakura lost championship fight. The only reason he brought him in was because Kyle Sakura already beat every single person 2 or 3 times. It's a different ball game, and I think there's so many factors because you're getting a skill jump from a league like Bellator, and then also the pressure of being on the biggest stage in combat sports in the world. There is no bigger stage, especially to start on such a big card. He started on the best, most watched card of this year. So, Rodriguez was being too patient with his strikes. He wasn't really putting himself out there. And then also the height difference. There's a lot that went into it, but I think that Pitbull's going to have a successful career. In the UFC, I think it's it's kind of just like swim or drown, and we'll see what he does.
Sink or swim?
Sink or swim, there we go. Paddy Pimblett. What a fight. Paddy Pimblett is someone who's been overlooked. I've never overlooked him. I want to be the first to say that. I always recognize his talent, but man, did he look good. His striking was so on point. He got the TKO win. He got him to the ground where you'd expect him to go for the submission, but he went for the ground and pound. He cut him early. He completely overwhelmed Michael Chandler. And it's kind of sad to see Michael Chandler fall off so well because every other fight that he's been in, he's been in. He's been in the fight. Like he's getting those big crowd moments where everyone's cheering for him and they want him to win. Saturday night, he just didn't really get that. There was no kind of point when he wasn't being overwhelmed. But by far, that was Paddy Pimblett's best performance in the UFC. And he called for a top 5 matchup, and I think he completely deserved it. Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. I don't think it could have went better for Volkanovski fans. Diego Lopez did get a knockdown in the second round. Only one... Did I say Volkanovski? No. He got knocked down in the second round. He... Only on one scorecard was it close with Lopez getting 2 rounds and him getting 3. He won by unanimous decision. It was so great. It was so fun. Everyone was there. And there was points where he literally, when he got hit and he got that knockdown, it looked like the headshot knockout that Islam got over him, where he did that little stumbling back thing and almost fell on like it could have been bad. I think the round stopped shortly after that, but there was times when you go, oh fuck, we might be cooked. But he pulled it through, and he's the first person to lose their belt, be over 35, and get it back in the history of the UFC. And I don't think there's anyone else that, you could be more happy for that. And I think that there's more to come. I think that obviously he's not ducking anyone. Look at how he is. But 2 of his biggest competition just left his division. Holloway's gone. Toporia's gone. He just beat Diego Lopez. He's beat Brian Ortega. He's beat Yair Rodriguez. Who else even is there? Everyone's gone.
There's the Evloev.
Evloev? But
yeah.
He's not even... He's ranked like what?
4.
Oh, wow.
And that's with Topuria still in the rankings, so 3.
Damn. But I don't think that Evloev's wrestling is good enough to really put a significant threat.
I think his biggest threat is Yair. Yair coming back and looking that good is...
But that was against someone who's going... So we'll see. I think, if his biggest threats are Yair right now, I think we're going to have a fun UFC for a while, featherweight.
Silva could climb up soon, too. Gene Silva
Yeah.
or Sean?
But I don't know. I would give that fight to Volkanovski.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think it's going to be great though. I'm super excited. And other than that, it's also fun to hear that Volkanovski understands that he's an older fighter by standard, and over this he took a longer break to be with his family and grow his brand, and he realized I don't need fighting, but I want to be a champion. I want to fight, and I think that really helped him coming back with his training camp because he looked great. He was shredded, and it's just great to see that. And then looking forward now, we have Ian Gary versus Carlos Prates. That's April 26th. It's Kansas City. We might go down there. Blow this video up. Give us 500 likes. We're going to UFC Fight Night. Anyways, go watch the Conor McGregor video. Go watch our live stream back. Go drop a like everywhere. That's it. Thank you.